In the year of 2021, we have had many good and bad movies. Malayalam cinema is getting the recognition it so rightfully deserves, and regional cinema is flourishing. Meanwhile, Hindi cinema is languishing. I have liked very few Hindi movies from 2021, and thankfully, Shujit Sarkar's Sardar Udham is one of them. This is another film about an Indian revolutionary, but this film differs itself from most of the other ones because it isn't overly patriotic to the point of annoyance. It doesn't pat itself on the back and provide a black and white morality tale, it instead provides a more nuanced take. This film follows a non-linear storytelling structure and it executes it pretty well, but not perfectly. This film's use of color reminded me of Greta Gerwig's Little Women, where you know whether the scene is taking place in the past or present. The scenes that take place in Sardar Udham are very similar. The present timeline has more of a blue and cold nature, meanwhile the past scenes have much more color and life to them where the grass shines brighter than the sun to show how the past was much more lively. Now the length of the film is a little dicey. There are times where a shot goes on for way too long, which made me think about how gorgeous it's framed. This is definitely one of my favorite looking movies in a while. The way it's lit feels extremely dramatic. The color yellow is extensively used, but it also allows us to see the blood red of the violence that takes place in the film. Along with the length of the movie, the somewhat passive nature of the character makes certain scenes a tad less interesting. I mean, Sardar Udham does have a goal and he had been preparing to achieve that very goal for decades. The minor storytelling issue is that we see him achieve his goal in the beginning of the film and later we see his process before achieving it, which is interesting but it doesn't completely work because of the moments of tension created in the flashbacks. Lose that tension because we already know what's gonna happen in the future. And after achieving that goal, Udham is just in prison, so he becomes pretty much passive. He does go through immense torture, which was slightly difficult to watch and made me feel empathy for him, but to me, seeing Udham trying to achieve his want and us knowing why he's doing this probably would have been a more interesting movie to watch from a narrative standpoint. Even some of the characters have nuance. In most Indian films, the foreigners are poorly written, easily hateable evil people. But here, although the British are portrayed as evil to some degree, it's not just for the sake of it. They're ruling India not just because, but because they have a belief. They believe that Indians will return to being savages without the presence of the British. They believe themselves to be the saviors. Meanwhile, Udham simply doesn't just hate all the Britishers, he hates the ones that personify the imperialistic rule his brothers and sisters suffer. He knows and is friends with a few Britishers himself who believe in his cause. This gives his character a level of understanding and empathy, and his anger is justified and fleshed out. The last hour of the film is simply phenomenal, a lengthy flashback that lets us know why he's doing all of this. We have always heard about the tragedy of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, but this film provides to us a different perspective. It allows us to see the aftermath of this attack. Udham stumbles upon countless bodies piled up, blood and wounds everywhere. He is traumatized. He finds very few people breathing and begins to help them by taking them to a hospital. The genius of the film is that this scene goes on for way too long, but it works because its length serves a purpose. It feels visceral. We're stuck with Udham searching for the bodies, hoping for the best, pitying those who lived through this horrifying event. It was by far my favorite scene because it was the most emotionally impactful. Sardar Udham was a solid film. Shujit Sarkar proves to be one of my favorite filmmakers with every new venture of his. His patient yet gripping style of filmmaking makes his films some of my personal favorites, and this one isn't very different. This is a patriotic film not because of its self-patting nature, but instead lets us see and know what happened and allows us to feel for ourselves. Thank you for watching.